welcome back, Hot Nerd Network, your go to place for all things Power Book 4 Force. I'm your host, Hot Nerd D, and today we have a returning guest, Hot Nerd Chimana. So excited to have you here and joining us to unpack season 2, episode 8.
Here we are.
Yes. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay up to date with all of our recaps. But let's get started first with our episode recap. So, this episode begins with Tommy and Vic creating a plan to try to cover up Agent Vargas' death. Followed by that is a scene with Diamond and Gianna discussing who he is, essentially, because Gianna sees him for a fun time, but she also sees him as a potential negative influence on Leon. She wasn't too far off because Diamond is convinced though that he is able to prove her wrong. But as you can see, like later on in the episode, Leon does get shot for standing up to a bully, doing a move that Diamond did inadvertently teach him while boxing. So Gianna does blame him for his death, but as you can see, and as the episode went on, Diamond isn't necessarily the cause for his death, although he was still an influence that played heavily into it. He is now drinking and on the decline, which is sad because we had never seen Diamond in this state. So we are going to see definitely how that continues to unfold, even though it is a sad day, of course, right now. He ended up killing his parole officer, which then also solidifies his personification of who he is and who he even later on described himself as a drug dealer. So, also within the episode, the feds pull up on Tommy unexpectedly, who reveals to him that they know about him and Maria. So that's a yikes. In hopes of scaring him because of the death of Vargas. So they basically want him to know that they are on him, they are watching him, and they aren't, taking their eyes off of him as of now. They are still pressing Vic though for information on Tommy towards the end of the episode to save himself. He even states that Tommy was the one who killed Vargas. So Vic is putting himself in a very, very uncomfortable position. However, though, Tommy's lawyer does inform him within the episode that there is potentially a snitch within his crew. So now he is suspicious. So his eyes are definitely going to be on Vic. Um, and others that he definitely deems suspicious of this kinds of things. Diamond and Tommy meet with the SODs to get them on board with CBI to take the Serbs out of business, and also to meet with Che at his daughter's quinceanera so that they can continue expanding their business and to have more control. The Serbs did retaliate though and show up at the meeting with the SODs to kill those members and to try to kill Tommy as well. Of course, they were unsuccessful, at least with killing Tommy. And surprisingly, Jannard's the one who steps in and saves him from getting shot. So this definitely gives Jannard a little bit more trust, or as though it appears, because Tommy is still definitely has his one eye open for Jannard as well as Vic. We do see within this episode too that Claudia and Shanti also are expanding their business into other clubs. And specifically Shanti is still continuing her plan to try to take over CBI with her different kind of tricks and plans there. So I'll pause there. What was your favorite part in this episode? Or what stood out to you the most?
I was gonna say this is a really sad episode. So I would say what stood out to me the most was mm, the traumatic scene of Leon. His life was disrupted. It was cut short. Ironically, he was on his way to saying or going to or participating in an anti-violence he was giving a speech at an anti-violence event. So
Mhm.
the irony of him dying by such violence is just a sad reminder of the environment that he was in.
Mhm.
An environment he so desperately wanted to impact in a positive manner, but just couldn't. And I just saw so many similarities between Leon and Diamond and who Diamond had wanted to be, but in order to survive in his environment, he had to become who he is. And he didn't want that for Leon, but here we are.
Yes, no, you definitely bring up a good point of, especially for Diamond not wanting that, but just seeing how that scene played out, like even kind of forced him back into his older ways or ways that he was actively trying to get out of. Because you could see throughout this season, like we always characterize Diamond as level headed, as calm, cool, and collected, someone who's trying to approach things with in a more peaceful manner.
Hmm.
um, but you can just see the switch just immediately, like when Leon died, you could like see it in his eyes how he almost just went completely blank. And now and then after, because that was also a crazy scene too, when he killed his parole officer
Yeah.
in the barber shop, because it's like, wow, like now we can truly see like how far, or like what, like the implications, like you said, like growing up in this kind of environment, being surrounded by these kinds of circumstances all day every day, like what it can make you become. And like him and Gianna were discussing earlier in the episode, like who he is, like he was really grappling with that. He's like, I understand that a facet of me is a drug dealer, and a gangbanger, how they were describing it. But he's like, I also am a business owner, like I also am a mentor, I also am a brother, I also am a friend. But just how, again, like being in that environment and in that circumstances can just overshadow those qualities, and how someone just simply is still going to see him as a drug dealer or a gangbanger, and how he's now, or now we're seeing like how he's now just going to kind of fully immerse himself into that, and just in a way just be completely ruthless, and do whatever means by any means. And that's just so opposite of how we've been seeing Diamond throughout this season. So it is sad. I do agree with you, this was a sad episode to watch and try to digest, especially.
Honestly, for the longest time, I was like, how did Diamond get put in a situation where he had to go to prison for so long? And now I'm like, oh, I can see it. Like,
Yeah.
this is the, I be like, okay, this is another side of Diamond. This is the side that got him essentially locked up. And
Hmm.
scene with him staring at himself in the mirror was very eye opening. It's almost like, how do we all see ourselves? And
Yeah.
how do other people see us? But more importantly, how do we see ourselves? And so
Yeah.
that dictates your actions.
Wow, that's a good point. Cause right, there were a couple scenes like, where he is like looking in the mirror, and the mirror was clean, literally up until the point of when Leon died. And then when he killed the parole officer, he looked back in the mirror, and the mirror was just full of blood, and it was dirty. And it, like that also in tune like represents like, again, like how he's now seeing himself, like, okay, well, I'll be, you know who in a way like I was created to be, or what I was forced to be put into. And even though it's like he was good at it, or now we could see like very skilled, I didn't even see him like cut him so like
Right.
that was wild. I'm not gonna lie, like that was wild. But it was like, wow, now we can also see too like some of those traits that even Jannard um
Janai.
even last season, like was trying to character like, Don, why are you trying to come out here and be, this peacemaker? Like you are the brute force. Like no one messes with Diamond. Like they, or it's the end of them. And it was so crazy too, in a way, like to see how Tommy, almost lit
Yeah.
up like a Christmas tree when he saw him do that.
creepy.
because in a way that is more like that is Tommy's also persona, or like that is also who Tommy is. And so it was just one of those moments like, dang, no, don't encourage that. But
Tommy was probably like, "Oh, this is the diamond people are talking about," or
yeah,
referred because he
yeah,
hasn't seen that either.
yeah, that's true. Like now he is now really getting accustomed to truly who Diamond is. And in a way, it's like, I hope for Tommy, like, you take heed to this, like, although, like, this is now kind of going more on the route of like how you would handle issues. It's like, you don't now want to make Diamond like an enemy of you
Right.
because he's not thinking anymore in terms of peace. He'll
Yeah.
do whatever. And if you're also in his way, like now so I just wonder now like if that will start to clash like within them, like now that Diamond's in this kind of
Yeah.
state of mind. Because then it was also interesting too to almost see the flip side of seeing Jannard in this episode like being more rational and like
Right.
actually was like, wait, that's actually not a good idea. Or even him trying to like step in like when they're meeting with the SODs for his brother, like no, you know how he was able to kind of think quick on his feet. And then we definitely have to give Drenard a little bit of respect from this episode because he did have to remind them, like, hey, I was the leader of this group for 15 years. I was the one who had to hold this down. So I do know, how this works.
That's
I
nothing.
know in a way I lost my way and tried to do things a little bit differently, but I still know how this all goes. Like
Yeah,
I
it's nothing to
and
sneeze at what Jannard did. So big ups to Jannard. We see you, Jay. We see you.
I but it's almost like, don't let this be short lived, even though it will be because he still, has his side deals
Yeah.
with Shanti. It's still like Vic brought up, like, or Vic, I believe it was Vic, yeah, who called him an opportunist.
Yeah.
Um,
Just like Claudia.
yeah. And just like Shanti now that we're seeing, where it's previously she was a bit more on the like let's try to just, do our business. Let's try to just, keep this going. But now, I think she sees like, or at least got a touch of the power and got a touch of the control that she has, like within this, and, is now wanting more and more of that. And so, I know we even previously discussed in other recaps, like how that can be a distraction going forward. But I don't know. I do like Shanti. I just know, just specifically in the context of this season or just this show, it's like you make yourself an enemy of Tommy or people in power, that just doesn't end up well for you. But it's like she is smart, just like Claudia, and
Yeah.
has a lot of skills and things that are necessary for like running a business in this sorts, but just not allowing kind of like greed, like we talked about last episode, and um in the name of expansion or growing, kind of blindside you into, possibly doing things that aren't as smart or aren't as beneficial later on. So,
Something I picked up is that Claudia showed Shanti another side of, I guess, an experience, like a
mm,
lifestyle, something that Shanti wasn't necessarily used to, but was like, oh, I need to. She actually verbatim said, oh, I need to step my game up, like even down to the liquor and everything, like the style, it's just different. Not saying that Claudia's is better, it's just different, and it's something that maybe Shanti wants to step into. And then, like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head. Shanti's experiencing a little bit more control and power than what she's had. I think she is in charge of a crew. Um
mhm, or she has territory. Yeah,
yeah, she
that's
has territory. So but this is just like on another level, and I think she likes it. And I mean, she wants more of it, and at this point she doesn't care who she crosses
yeah.
to get it.
And once again, it's like, oh no, like please pull back a little bit just
Be
so
careful.
like you don't cross the wrong people. But in the end, even like what Miguel's mother was trying to warn him even from last episode, like someone's always going to be trying to come for your spot, or someone's always going to want like the things that you have if you are in that place of position, or in that place of power. And so, I think Shanti's getting a bite of that now, but it's just like, like once she takes over, always having to look over her shoulder, and be, very suspicious and things like that, just because like Miguel, he got blindsided. He didn't know that Tommy was going to different crews and trying to get them on board. And so once again, so it's like I wonder, you know, how far, I guess, or what stakes she's willing to take or willing to go to get that amount of power that she's really seeking. And then, understanding like what comes with that. Like, as much is given, much is required. And so I just want, hopefully, like she is prepared, which I do think like she does have the mindset for it. It's just, I do think that she's just moving in a way where she's kind of solely thinking about the power and about the control, and not necessarily thinking about the ramifications that could come of it.
And I think that's where Jannard's going to step in, because like he has the expertise. He knows how to run a business or a territory for a significant amount of years. So that's where he's going to have to reel her in a little bit and be like, this is how you slow and steady win this. Because if you shoot too quick to the top, you might come down burning. So it's like, let's think about this. Let's see how we can stay at the top for a while, you know.
Yeah. And because it's like, he's like, girl, look at me. Look at what just happened to me.
Right.
This will happen very
Right.
quickly again if we don't start, strategizing and
Right.
doing things a little bit different. So he's like, I don't know what more more example you need than me. I am the living proof
Right.
that if you don't move a certain way, or if you don't do this correctly, or if you don't do this um a bit more strategically, like it will come crashing down, and we are gonna have to go right back to
Right.
where we started, which is, trying to go back into their good graces. And so I do wonder though, because she is also very sly. She also is very quick too, kind of like with that last move, like she did last episode, where all of a sudden she had him in a chokehold. So, I do think she can adapt and she can progress. It's just like you're saying, like trying to move a little bit too quickly, or trying to do things a little bit too hastily, because that's truly like typically the moments where you do kind of fall off, or you do slip up. And it's like you don't want to give your enemy like an inch, because they will take it for, they'll take it a mile. And so
Right.
I am excited to see how her character and how that continues to evolve. But even speaking of characters, um, or not characters, but themes, in this episode, to dive a little deeper into the layers, one theme that, of course, stood out to me was like the theme of survival. That's an overarching theme in this show, but just specifically this episode. I Tommy said that quote, in essence, where he was like, if you don't try to grow, or if you don't try to adapt, which is also a common kind of conversation that we had throughout the recaps, like you're going to die. He was like, that's going to be your death sentence if you're not able to move, if you're not able to kind of progress. Things that we did see in Walter Flynn, things that he didn't want to do, things that he was so starchly against, look at, in a way, like at his demise, like we did see the end of his life. And so that is, in a way of why Tommy's trying to create this coalition, trying to create this big group, in a way to get money and things like that, and to kind of expand their business. But at the same time, like there's still that aspect of having to survive to be able to thrive, or to be able to even do their business. So, how would you describe survival, I guess, in the context of this episode, or how important is survival in this show overall too?
I mean, so many characters showed what they had to do for survival in this episode in particular. But again, like you said, it's an overarching theme in this entire show. But for example, Vic, he had to think. He's like, I'm doing things that I didn't really sign up for, but I got to do this to survive.
Mm.
He knows 100% by putting Tommy under the bus, saying he killed Vargas, which he didn't, but
Yeah.
saying that he did, just that was a primitive survival tactic
Mm.
because the cop was like, it's either you or him, and he chose himself. And another example of survival was um Leon. Unfortunately,
Mm.
he saw this. He's like, I'm tired of getting beat up. Let me fight back. He didn't know that, people don't typically fight with fists anymore, unfortunately. And that was, unfortunately, it didn't end well for Leon. We saw Maria. She chose, like, most people, can fall in love and be with whom they want. And she couldn't, because she's scared of dying at the hands of her brother. She can't even date. And so that was a survival. She had to cut things off with. She had to say, "I'm sorry, we can't." So, like, a lot, and even the age of the FBI agent, she knows her job's on the line, so she's doing whatever
Hmm.
her job. So everyone here is like doing different things to try to survive. Like Shanti, she's doing what she has to do to come up. Claudia, she's making deals with the serfs to stay protected. Everyone's trying to do what they have to do to survive.
Gotcha. And it's like you bring up a good point in that, where it's like they're doing things out of character or even out of context of like what they would even truly want to do or how to have to handle this situation, just because of the circumstance. Like, I am forced quite literally to have to do these things, even though, I would love or would have rather, handled this a different way. And then also too, you brought up or just again that sense of force, because I was reading like how to kind of differentiate between survival and living, is because they're both in a way a state of being. But one is just more focused on staying alive, which is survival, and while living actually encompasses not only staying alive but experiences too. So like you were speaking to Leon, like he was he's not only just trying to survive his neighborhood, he wants to live in it, like he wants to experience it without it being riddled with violence, or without it being so infested with like gangs or drugs or just different things of that nature. And so it does bring up that point where it's like Maria too. Like, I want more out of just going day to day surviving or just staying alive. Like, there is, like you're saying, love, like more to life
Right.
than just literally surviving. But just the way that their circumstances are, or just the environment that they're in, it's almost as though survival is living, like for them, like that is their experience. Like, there is nothing extra, or there is nothing more like that you can really kind of grasp for, or and if you do, it's very short lived. And that's like what kind of comes to mind, like when I do think about Leon. It's like, okay, like in a way, the moment I do start living, or the moment I do start like really trying to thrive, and have experience, to experience life, my life gets taken, like. And same with Diamond, in a way, like the moment I'm even just grappling the thought of, okay, I do like mentorship, I really do take a liking to Leon, like I really do like, or even when it came to the SOD meeting, like chose still to
Yeah.
prepare Leon instead of going. So you could see how even there, like, I am like, they're trying to live and then, trying to really experience more than what is kind of being presented to them, and how it's just so short-lived or just taken so prematurely before it's like really had its chance to evolve. And so
Yeah.
that really hurt. I like you said, like, this episode did hurt because it definitely brought that to the surface. Like, when we're like, even as simple as they're at a quinceanera, and yet they're still talking about business, or yet they're still talking about how can we expand, or how can we grow, or that I make you this much money, and this is why you need to kind of get on board with me, and X, Y, and Z. And it's like, we're at your daughter's birthday, like, we're at her celebration. Like, this is not the time or the place. But Chase said very clearly, he's like, it's always the time. It's always the place, because we can't escape this. Like, we can't just shut it off and shut it on like when it's convenient. This is our lives. Like, this is what we have to do. And so I thought that that was another good point too. Like when Miguel tried to say like time and place, it's like it's always going to be the time, it's always going to be the place. Because even when the Serbs came and shot them up at their meeting, it's like there was no way to like stop that, or like there was no way to really foresee that. And so you just in a way have to be ready, or you just have to be prepared
Yeah.
in that way. So dang. So what do you
Sad. Like that scene with Leon, it really got to me because it's like, what what else could he have done? Like he couldn't physically move himself out of his environment. He tried everything he could possibly do in his own way, and for his mother, the same beginning of the episode. My number one focus is him, keeping him safe, his well being, and now she lives with this guilt because she said I put him in the hands of a someone who I've heard things about, but he said he's changed. And now look at where my son is. Like it just makes me feel like, I don't know, almost hopeless in a way in those circumstances, because not everybody wants to conform to their circumstances, you know? And so that could be applied to anybody. Like just because you're in a bad situation doesn't mean you want to be, or doesn't mean you have to stay in it. And then when you try, things like that happen. It just devastating.
Yeah, that is true. Because like you said, like, even mentioning Gianna and now the aftermath of like what she's gonna have to go through. And how Leon was her like experience, or her living, her enjoying what she can, within the circumstances that they're in, like still being within that neighborhood. And so it's now that he's gone, it's like, now I wonder like what mode that put her in. Because it's like, now I'm like moving out of living, and now I have to figure out how to survive without my son. Like, how I never experienced a world, I guess, like after he was born, now having to think about him not being here, and having to grapple that. And like you said, like now having to not, try so hard to not conform to what is around her. Similar to Diamond, like how he now just feels, like you said, like hopeless. Like, I have no other choice but to now be who is expected of me. And then even for the mom, like, now I have no other choice but to, you know, feel this anger, feel this rage, or just, feel the feelings of losing a child when that wasn't supposed to happen. Like, that wasn't supposed to be like her experience. So it's again like having to survive or stay alive in circumstances that, one, like, are weren't things that like we kind of put on ourselves. Like, she didn't put the gun to her own child's heart, like, or so just all of that is a lot to like have to grapple and have to like really, like you said, like how do I find the hope in that? Like where is like the joy and like the experience and the livelihood and the, being able to thrive in all that?
And I know we talk about Leon a lot, but those other two kids, because they were kids too, who shot,
Mm.
what lives they have? Are they open survival mode? Why was that his first reaction to shoot after he got punched? Like, why was that almost like second nature? What environment or lifestyle did they have that they grew up in constantly to that? Because that's not my natural reaction. Like I'm not trying to like, if someone wrongs me, I don't want to like, retaliate in that type of manner at all. So it's like you can see how everyone is just trying to make it based on how their their circumstances are.
Very true. And oh man, I know like the next couple episodes are gonna be, having to unpack a lot of what did transpire in this episode specifically. And so once again, like we are gonna see in a way a different side of Diamond now. And then also even if we do see her like a different side of the mom as well. So it's like now that things have changed or um now that Leon is gone, like how that being the catalyst, how that's going to just change, how things were going. Um, and so I am excited to see how it turns out, but just again, like knowing that it's not going to be such a nice seed or to like really evolve and like watch it's gonna be sad. It's gonna be truly bittersweet. But I am still rooting for Diamond to like, come out of that and kind of rage that she was feeling, especially like at the scene, like when you saw her crying and um, already you know, she put the blame on Diamond, just trying to grapple and like really conceptualize like what life is truly just gonna look like for her now. So that
And
we shall see.
sorry. Something I realized too is like the people that in this episode at least that are trying or their role is to make the community a better place, like the task force and like the parole officer, Leon, like they're all dead. Like the agent Vargas, he was a part of the task force trying to get crime and drugs out of the community. The parole officer who's trying to make sure people who have done things stay on the straight and narrow, dead. Leon, who's trying to come out of an environment where it's riddled with drugs and violence, gone. And it's like, is this the reality? And if so, how? It just poses a bigger question. How can we protect those who are trying to make a situation better, a circumstance better, you know?
Yep. And I definitely think that will take, really going to the root of it. And instead of, in a way, like trying to lock up like the people who are inflicting these kinds of actions or inflicting these crimes or doing these sorts of things, like going to the root of that and like understanding, well, why do we have to sell drugs? Like, why is a child having to go around and carry a gun, possibly for a sense of safety? Like, why are these things happening? And let's answer that instead of trying to just find the people and lock them up. Because as you can see, even the drugs are going into the prison. So it's not necessarily even stopping there. So
Yeah.
clearly, like there is that does raise a bigger question of like maybe we're not doing the right actions. Like I do agree. Leon, trying to stand up and speak to his community was a good start, and which is so sad why
Yeah.
his life at the end. But just going back to like even the feds and their goal and their idea, like is getting Tommy off the street really going to stop gang violence? I don't think so. Like,
Right.
and and now we can even see like her motives. Like this is now solely kind of
Personal.
in a way for you. Yeah, this
Right.
is very personal. Like this is now your job. Now in a way, now she's even in survival mode.
Yep.
Like now she's even like has moved from, okay, now I'm just like living in my job, I'm experiencing and then being able to create that impact now has gone to, I have, like, now if I lose this job, I don't even know, like what could happen of me, or like just my reputation. And so it's like now we can even see like the motives there. Like, were they pure? Are you really trying to help, or are you, trying to get a big score? Are you trying to boost your reputation? Are you just trying to, get ahead in your career? So it's like, I think truly answering some of those root questions could definitely help, instead of, trying to put a band-aid, on a gunshot wound. That's not going to fix. That's not going to hold for long. And, you're going to continue going through a cycle if truly like the root doesn't get um solved. So that definitely brings up a good point there, to even like transition to our characters. And to talk a little bit more deeper there, I think that like, even we just been discussing like that the context of like duality and having like those opposing kind of um like goals or mindsets. Like, so how would you describe like the characters, specifically in this episode, in the context of duality, or just having those like opposing or contrasting like ideals or mindsets or motives?
Hmm. Well, there's times where, so I look at Tommy, and they were, the FBI agent said that he is a sociopath.
Yeah.
And you could kind of see that when he was looking at how Diamond reacted to the parole officer. But there's glimpses that we do see Tommy care. And like, for example, his nephew D-Mac, like he cares about his family. He cared about Ghost. He cared about Tyreek. He cares, but then he goes back to, wait, I gotta survive. Like we said with the topic, like the theme, I gotta survive. So I can't care and survive. Just like you
Mm,
can see, he cares about Maria, but
yeah.
not enough to mess with his survival. So he's like, all right, well, all right, I'll let you go. Do you for a while. I mean, this is how you feel like you got to survive. I can respect it. Um, I seen, it was a nice change to see Jannard's duality. We've seen him so, we haven't, be, okay, he's been a leader for 15 years, but we hadn't seen that. We kind of got a little glimpse of him taking charge in a reasonable manner, a way that he's coherent, he's making sense. It was nice to see that because past couple episodes he was down bad, and so it was nice to see him in this state. Devastated to see Diamond in his state because I'm just not used to it. Wasn't ready, but here we are, and now I'm like, okay, he's multifaceted, just like everyone else. He's not just on the straight and narrow. Now I see why he probably got caught up and went to prison. His dad actually in the previous episodes alluded to that. He said, "I know who you are," and he's like, he tried to play that. Oh, I'm the good kid. That nah, his dad knew what was up. He knew his son, and he knew because he was his father. And you can also see with the duality with Shanti. She wants to be a boss, a big boss. But then I saw how she was level headed with Tommy. I could see how she's playing the game to get what she wants. So I think she's very intelligent. I think she's ruthless. So that
Mm,
might take her far, both of those aspects. So she does what she has to do. Like Tommy was waiting for her in that conversation that she had with Jay and Tommy. Tommy was waiting for her to pop off the handle, but she was like, I can respect that. I can deal with that. So Tommy's like,
mhm,
okay. So we can do something. Even though he
mhm.
has no idea what she has in store. So
Yeah.
a lot of these characters, and I think that's what's so good about the show is that not all these characters have different sides to them. No
Yep.
one's just this is them. And it reflects people. We all have different sides to us. So,
Yep. No, you definitely bring up a lot of good points there. Especially too, seeing the duality between the two brothers, because it between Diamond and Jannard, just so clearly in this episode, like you said, like every this whole season is like, Jannard, I can't
I
take
know.
you anymore. Why are you doing this? So, like you said, like to see him like be a bit more level headed, to be a bit more strategic. It's like, okay, now we can truly see, how you held this down for
Yeah.
15 years. 'Cause that is a significant amount of time, which is why it's like, okay, Jannard, I'm sorry for a lot of the comments, because in a way, like, you do have to give him some respect in that regard. Like, I did do this for a very long time, and I know, like you were saying, like how he has different sides. I allow sometimes like my opportunistic side to kind of overshadow, or I allow that greedy side of me to like come in and overpower situations. And it's like you said, just being multifaceted and having those different parts of you. And sometimes are just very conflicting. Like you're saying with Shanti, like how she is like very smart, very keen, very strategic as well. But she also is very sly. And now we can also see too that she does have a bit of ruthlessness in her as well. And so, you know, having those opposing kinds of thought processes, or having those opposing kind of characteristics still within the same body, housed in the same person, it could just create, I know it definitely creates a lot of dynamic, but it just also could create a lot of tension, or can create a lot of different situations kind of coming out of surprise, like how we talked about in the last recap. Like, so, and how surprises can be, beneficial, if you're the one enacting the surprise. But if the surprise is being acted on you, you're not necessarily in the best of positions to really react, or to really prepare, or to really actually have a good response to the situation. And I definitely think too, just the most clearest example of duality and that opposing or just contrast is Diamond. And like you said, like we this has always been Diamond's persona, or like this has always been a part of Diamond. How he's so, was so gung ho, like trying to explain to Gianna in the beginning, like, you know, that's a facet of me. Like, that is just a piece of me. Yeah, I might deal a little drugs. It's like, you don't deal a little drugs. You are practically like you are, like it's it's not just on a small scale. It's not just here and there. It's like, you are
he even
like a major drug dealer.
he even almost tricked the parole officer. He said, "You had me fooled. I really
Yeah.
changed." And I think he tried. He really did.
Yeah.
He really did.
And I think that that's what we got that clear picture of, like, this wasn't me trying to actually pretend. So I think that's where a lot of his rage and anger was coming from. It's like, I really did not actually ask for this, this time. Like, this, I was trying to do stuff a little bit different, trying to handle things a little bit better, trying to be a bit more of a positive role model. Like, just explain it to Gianna too. Like, I am not trying to, negatively influence Leon right now. Like, I do want the best for him. Just like in a way, like I wanted the best for myself, but my circumstances didn't, place me in a place of position to do that. So I am going to encourage Leon to do that. Like, I am going to encourage that behavior. And he really was. Like, a lot of the things that he was teaching him, wasn't in his detriment, like, or wasn't at least trying to be in his detriment. Like, he was trying to teach him, just to stand up for yourself, like to be able to at least defend yourself, because they were going to keep picking on him in the neighborhood. And so, seeing that, like, just contrast of like the almost like just good and evil, like and how you don't have to be both, but just looking at the circumstance and the environment that they're in, it's almost as though there I don't have a choice to even express some of those other feelings because they are like they don't put me in the best position. Like they don't lead to good results. Like when I try to be peaceful, I get met with brute force, or like when I try to teach someone how to defend themselves, they get killed. Like how
I think
how yeah.
what you were saying, I think, hit the nail on the head. Leon was a representation of who Diamond wanted to be. And now that Leon's dead, he's going back to what it is. And that
Mhm.
was, he was, you saw him, like, even Tommy's like, what's up with D? Like, he's pulling away. Leon was inadvertently pulling him out of that lifestyle
Mhm.
somehow, stopping him from going to these meetings or postponing this and that. And the
Mhm.
moment Leon died, he was like, well, that there goes my chance of doing better, being better. And so I'm going back to whatever I got to now because, and I think that's what Leon represented. And I think why we're so hurt about Leon is that we kind of saw Leon evolve. We saw his story. We saw what he went through. And now we're like,
Yeah, like first of all, yeah, just shout out to Leo because he just did not get he didn't get a break from literally anybody besides his mom and Diamond. Like his father was a menace to him.
yeah.
The kids in the neighborhood were a menace to him, and it's like you said, like he was just like a physical representation
Hmm.
of Diamond's hope,
Yeah.
like hope in his community,
Yeah.
just hope in life,
Mhm.
like hope in living, like being able to experience more than what he has been. And it's like in that instance, it's like all his hope was just shattered, all his hope was just like completely obliterated. Um and now he's like back to someone where we may not recognize, but the streets and his crew, for sure Jannard,
Yeah.
is very privy to. And so it will be just a bit confusing, I think, at least for viewers, like when we see more as the season kind of continues to evolve. Like, dang, I don't want to see Diamond be me. Just rude. It's like, no, we just like just had so much more expectation for him. And so to see that, like, just that light in his eyes just diminish to just not care, it's like, to like what you had to experience, like to get to that point. Like there were so many things that got him to that point. Like it wasn't just like in an instance, and it wasn't even just probably Leon. Like there's so many, his dad dying, like so
Hmm.
many different factors that can kind of just contribute to just a state of helplessness. And um once again, like I know we even discussed in previous recaps, like how that just leads to being desperate and puts you in a state of desperation. And it's like when you're in that state, it's like nothing matters,
Yeah.
like no one matters. And um when nothing and no one matters, it's like at that point, what are you willing to do? Like, whoa,
Yeah.
and that's the scary part, because now we're going to see exactly like what that extent is. And it's like, wow, we just weren't expecting this from you. Like this is what we expected from Jannard. And so it's like
Right.
now to even see, yeah, again, there, him having to like almost come in and possibly save the day. It's like, Jannard, after all you did, now you're the one who comes in and gets the glory. But
He came through this
he
episode.
did. It's like, Jadar, I was not trying to root for you, but I'm
Uh,
rooting for you a little bit. But you're still, got your sus plans in the background, so it's gonna be short lived. But just even in the context of duality, like it makes me think of Vic too. Um, and how he's trying to play that like opposing or contrasting sides of, am I going to be like a loyal like gang member, street member, or am I going to be a snitch, am I going to be an informant, like, and how he has to kind of grapple those ideas, because once again, like, his environment doesn't afford him the luxury of being a snitch or, being an informant. And
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's like he was immersed in this environment, probably since a young age, watching his father be in this business. And so it's like he never had a choice either. And how he's been explaining this whole time, like, even just outside of just revenge for Gloria, like wanting again to live and to have a different life, and to not just have to survive, or to go do a little bit more than just surviving. And how, you know just how he's not necessarily going to be able to do that now, especially now that the cop agent Vargas is dead.
Right.
Now that Tommy is aware that there's a snitch in his ranks, like, I just, for Vic, it's like, I don't even know where
I
to
think he's
place him.
so lost that he
Yeah,
doesn't know what he wants anymore. He doesn't
yeah,
know. He's just doing
yeah.
the thing.
That is true, and it's like, that's sad,
Yeah.
like, to be in that state of mind too, to because it's almost similar to Diamond's experience, like, just literally being just helpless in this situation. Like, it's either the feds are gonna take me out
Right.
or Tommy is, and so
Right.
I don't have much else
So what
to
am I?
really. Right. So, it doesn't have Gloria either, so it's like all of even his, like, little pockets or peace, or like where he was even trying to find his joy, is just slowly but surely just diminishing. And right, like you said, I don't know what can
What?
help Vic at this point. I feel bad for him a little bit. He got a unlucky hand too,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't say not as unlucky as Claudia, though.
Yeah.
So he's definitely was always in a better position than her. So it's like, what, if Claudia could manage, or like could think through this, Vic, come on,
Right.
you ran to the feds thinking that was gonna help. It's like, I know, like,
Uh,
I don't know what to make of this, Vic. In a way, it's almost like, count your days, buddy. Like, you are
right.
not. It is not looking too good for you. But in a way, I would be really surprised to see if he can, pull himself out of that. Or
He's trying to put it on Jannard. That's what he's trying to do.
yeah, and honestly, I'm sorry, Janard's like, I'm not going for
He
that.
is trying to go for
Not going for that. Sorry. I
it.
know I've been, the problem child for a long time, but it's not me this time.
Right.
So, and I think, like, because Jannard saved Tommy on this episode, he is gonna point, or I think look a little bit more in Vic's direction now,
Yeah.
because it's like Jannard doesn't have anything to lie about at this point.
Right.
It's
I think
like,
he did a smart move with coming to Tommy, telling them what's up, that we are working with Claudia. So it's not even like Vic can keep throwing that in Tommy's face, like they're going behind your back. He's like, no, they're keeping it 100 with me. So that was a
mhm.
smart move. So
Yes, so we will definitely see how that all unfolds. What are your predictions for next episode, or even later on in the season? Because we only have a couple more. So,
oh, I know. I honestly, and as much as I hate to say it, I don't think Shanti's gonna make it. I don't. I know. That's my prediction. I just think she's gonna get burned. And it's either gonna be by Tommy or it's gonna be by Claudia.
mm,
I
oh
just
yeah.
and so that's one of my predictions. Another one, Vic's not gonna make it. I'm sorry. It's just what it is. Um he has too many opposite forces against him. I
Hmm.
think um Tommy and Diamond are gonna be what they aspire to be,
Yeah.
which is the top of the
They
top.
gonna make it now that Diamond got his head on the business
Diamond
now.
10 toes down now,
Yeah.
so he's down for whatever. I mean, if you're killing parole officers, what
Yeah.
else?
He.
So I think that's what's gonna happen. I mean, we're just gonna see a lot more chess playing, and I'm excited to see how it's gonna all play out. But those are my predictions.
Yeah. I agree that Shanti, she's just playing against the wrong players,
Yeah.
like going against the current. And it's like I love that for her because I do want her to have more
Right.
say and more control in how she wants to conduct her business. Um it's just literally because who you're going up against,
Right.
that's what just makes it like, I
And Jay
just,
died
I wish it
born.
was a different player, that she was doing this against. But you're going against Tommy the Terminator and now Diamond the Destroyer. So
Right. The Dominator. He's
how
different.
how yeah, and who knows how that will truly unfold. I do agree too. Vic is not gonna I don't think he's gonna make it out of this one. He just put himself too much. He's in too deep
Yeah.
on both ends, and
Right.
now they both hate him in a way, and so it's like, sorry, Vic.
Yeah. Oh.
I wanted the best for you because I was sad when Gloria died, and I know that how much that meant to him. It's just he just didn't once he got his like revenge, like with his dad, I don't think he really knew what else to do
Right.
beyond that. And like you said, like now that he's so lost, it's like what else?
He's just
What
doing
else could really come
that
of?
thing is making sense with him right now. So
Yeah. I do think too, Miguel is definitely gonna get his lick back on Tommy. He's not going to go down easy with
right.
him, poaching on his business
Right.
and the Serbs. So it's like, oh, would you ever I wonder if Miguel's gonna go back to the Serbs and say, you know what, sorry, Tommy is actually the issue because
Yeah.
now Che is in a way on Tommy's side. So
Right.
it's like now Miguel has to find his footing somewhere else. So
Mm.
once again, it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they now come back in cahoots with each other, including Claudia and even including Shanti,
Yeah.
to create that force to go against them.
Yeah.
Um,
Their
but
own coalition.
right. They're gonna start treason part
Right.
2. Y'all gotta stop that. Cut it out.
Right.
Um, but yes, so I'm excited because we got 2 more episodes left. So
Oh,
we will definitely see how that unfolds. But that will be a wrap for today's recap of Power Book 4 Force 2 Episode 8. Thank you again, Hot Nerd Chief, for coming in today and sharing your insights with us again. Always love to have you here with us on the Power Book 4 Season 2 recaps. So, yay.
yeah,
Thank you again for joining us.
of course.
Thank you again for everyone tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe your thoughts. And of course, make sure you stay tuned for next week's recap. And we can't wait to see you then. Of course, stay nerdy.
Bye.